Hey, what's good, YouTube? My name is James Jones, and I am an attorney. I'm the owner of Elevate Law, a law firm in Boston, Massachusetts that specializes in the needs of early stage startups. This is the first video of the YouTube channel, and I figure I would try something new out, so let's see how this goes. Today, I'm going to talk about 5 mistakes to avoid when forming your startup. So, starting a new company can definitely be a daunting task, one that's filled with apprehension and enough shot nerves to make you pull your hair out. But there are some ways to avoid some of the problems that startups encounter by taking a few steps up front in order to avoid problems down the road. So, let's take a look at 5 mistakes you should avoid when forming your startup. Mistake number one is incorporating before you determine equity splits. So if you have multiple co founders, or at least more than one, at least you and one other person, you need to determine up front before you incorporate how you plan on splitting that company. Because if you don't do that and before you get a chance to handle your post incorporation paperwork, things could get messy and you have to look towards common law rules to determine how the ownership of the company should be split based upon, you know, who did what work and for how long and what value they input to the company and so on and so forth. So, when a company's been up and running for a while and one founder decides to step away, you could have a situation where that founder who leaves, are they owed stock? How much? And, for what reason are we basing this on? So, definitely something to think about. Mistake number two, issuing stock to founders without having a vesting arrangement. This is something that comes up fairly often. People ask the question, I give the answer. Most of the time they listen, sometimes they don't. But it's worth talking about vesting right now because many founders still get this wrong. Everyone involved in the company should always be on a vesting schedule based upon them maintaining their work relationship with the company. And this is also true for founders because founders can leave and go off and do something else, not for bad reasons. Sometimes life happens and you just got to move on and do something different. But also, you want to make sure that people are earning the value that they are taking out of the company, that they are putting the work in order to get something back out of it later. And having everyone on a vesting schedule will make this a lot easier and may keep people motivated who otherwise might drift away and try to do other things, especially when money gets tight and people have to start figuring out other ways of getting income. So definitely something that you want to have is everyone on a vesting schedule. And to be perfectly honest, if you plan on taking investor money, whether angel or VC, they are almost always going to demand that every founder is on a vesting agreement. Now, mistake number three is failing to assign intellectual property to the company. Uh, this is something that doesn't happen as much as it used to, although it's something that definitely still happens, which is founders starting a company, running it, and if it's a tech company, which are most of the companies that I work with, they have computer code that they've been coding out and designs for apps and programs and websites, back end development, front end development on their apps or their programs or whatever it is that they're working on, and all of those things fall under the broad general category of intellectual property, whether it's copyright or trademark or in some cases patents. And part of your post incorporation paperwork for the co-founders, and when you bring on anyone, whether it's an independent contractor or an employee or another co-founder or even an advisor, you definitely want to have them assigning any intellectual property that they create to the company. The intellectual property is what gives the company value. The company has value because of how it operates with the product that it's selling. So if it's based upon an app, if it's based upon a program, if it's based upon some database hierarchy, some type of algorithm, whatever it is that makes it special, that makes it popular, that makes it make money, that's where a lot of the value comes from. And if the company doesn't own that property, but the individual who created it maintains ownership of it, your company loses its value. And again, if you take investor money, any seasoned investor, or at least their lawyer, is going to make sure that everyone who is a part of the company, and even going back to people who were a part of the company who may not be anymore, that everyone has signed intellectual property assignment. Mistake number 4, registering as an LLC instead of a corporation. I see this one fairly often also. And this one might ruffle feathers, but in the startup world, there are very few occasions where a company will actually want to be structured as a limited liability company instead of a corporation. If you plan on either taking minimal or no investment, or you don't plan on giving out ownership in the company to too many people, if you may be relying on grant money, then it's probably okay to organize as an LLC. You'll have to check with an attorney to determine if your situation warrants that. You'll make your accounting life easier. You'll have almost no corporate governance hoops that you have to jump through. But if you're a startup, then you most likely are going to be looking for investors over multiple rounds of financing. You're going to be having independent contractors who will be working for the company and other people who you may be assigning equity to. And it's much simpler, much easier, much more straightforward to do all of these things through a corporation. Now, when you're a corporation, your investors only need to see a few standardized documents in order to know that everything is in order before investing. They don't have to review your LLC operating agreement. They don't have to review any other documents. They just need to see the charter, the bylaws. Most of those things are standard. And when you want to give equity to employees, there are quick processes in place to issue options easily. All right, so that makes things a lot simpler for most startups. And that leads to mistake number 5, using an online service to set up your company. Now, don't get me wrong, the actual process of forming a company in Delaware or really any state is super easy and simple. You literally just fax over a form, or now in Delaware, it's online. You just submit a form that has the company's name, the number of shares, and some other basic information that the state may require. You pay your fee, and ta-da, you have a corporation. But did you choose the right state of incorporation? Did you choose the right corporate entity? Which relates to mistake number 4 of choosing an LLC. Are you incorporating late and already have an investor putting in money for preferred shares, and you could have included that in your charter while you were incorporating, but you didn't, so now you got to pay extra money? Did you select a right number of shares to put in place from day one, so you don't have to go and pay to amend the charter to add more shares when you want to give out options or give out shares to contractors or early stage employees? Now, these are all questions that any lawyer will lead you down the path of answering while consulting with you, and the types of things that most likely you are not going to get asked if you just hop on some website, type in some information, punch in your credit card information, and they say, here's your corporation. You also generally don't get post-incorporation paperwork when you do the online services. Some do, and most likely they're not customized for your actual needs because they didn't talk to you. They don't know what your needs are. But a lot of them don't even give you the post-incorporation paperwork. So the stuff I was talking about regarding vesting shares, figuring out how to distribute stock, assigning intellectual property, that plus other stuff all takes place in the post-incorporation paperwork that many of these online services flat out do not provide at all. So those are the 5 main mistakes that I noticed in my experience of 7 years working exclusively with startups. Things that I have seen happen that require a lot of time and sometimes a lot of money to fix after the fact when they didn't have to be made in the first place. If you have any questions, maybe drop them in the comments below, or you can click my link to my website that's in the description, and you can send me a note on the contact form, and maybe I can answer your questions and take it from there. So thanks for tuning in, and please like, subscribe, share if you found this informative and helpful. Take care.